A very warm welcome and thank you for joining us today. I am 𝗟𝗶 from Singapore Art Museum, and I'm pleased to welcome you to A Date with 𝗟𝗏 Liana Young. This program is part of 𝗟𝗏's latest exhibition, Can Everybody See My Screen, which currently runs until 11 December at 𝗟𝗏 at 𝗚𝗏𝗢𝗪 District Park. This evening, I am very pleased to introduce to you our speaker, artist Liana Young, and moderating this session, we have curator at Singapore Art Museum, 𝗚𝗏𝗢𝗪. Thank you both for joining us. Now, I will pass the time to our speakers. Over to you guys.
Thank you, 𝗟𝗏, and a very good evening to everyone joining us online today. My name is 𝗟𝗏𝗧, and I'm an assistant curator at 𝗟𝗏. So tonight's online chat is a program in accompaniment of 𝗟𝗏's ongoing exhibition that's titled Can Everybody See My Screen? This is a show that looks at the relationship between technology and the human body, with the screen as interface and locus of mediation. The exhibition features works from 𝗟𝗏's collection, also alongside loans as well as new commissions with an interest in how artistic practices engage with an increasingly digitalized world. So we're very happy to have Liana Young with us tonight, who is the artist behind the artwork 𝗚𝗏, which you may have encountered and even interacted with for those of you who have visited the show. So a bit about Liana before we begin. In Liana's artistic practice, she's rarely motivated by direct beauty, but rather is drawn to the aesthetics of social interactions and also the oddities that we encounter in daily experiences. Liana's works combine photography, video, sound, found objects, and installation, and are very often inspired by the rather enigmatic and unseen aspects of romantic relationships, especially in this technological age. So what is the state of relationships today as people develop greater reliance on social media to connect? That is one of the many questions that has sustained Liana's practice over the past several years, and which we also hope to delve into a bit deeper today. So once again, to our audiences online, do feel free to send in any questions or comments that you have using the Q&A function, because we'll be casting an eye on them throughout the program, and we'll also be doing our best to weave them into the conversation at opportune times. But if not, also not to worry, we will have a dedicated Q&A segment towards the end. So big hello to Liana, and thank you so much for spending your evening here with us. Maybe to lead us into the conversation, we could begin by having you tell us a bit more about your work, 𝗚𝗏. What were your inspirations behind it, and also its title as well?
Hi, hello everyone. First of all, thank you 𝗟𝗏𝗧 and also the 𝗟𝗏 team for the introduction and also for doing OT this evening. Okay, just let me quickly share my screen. Okay, back to the question about 𝗚𝗏. This is actually an interactive artwork that incorporates an actual claw machine, and the gameplay, of course, with the claw machine, whereby visitors tries to win a mystery love prize. It plays on the factors of choices and chances in finding the one. So besides having the chance of choice to pay for a token to win a love prize, the work also includes a text-based video with a soundtrack created by a local DJ, 𝗏𝗏𝗢 or 𝗚𝗏𝗢𝗪. A souvenir is supposed to be actually, what some people might say, wickedly funny and painful at the same time. So we ask what our chances of finding the right one entails, and also questions the illusion of choice and control when we try to seek the perfect partner via online dating apps. So the artwork taps on the visual and also textural tropes of romance and love. It references the rhetorics of romantic relationships and about finding true love that is often that's often found that in popular media, in books, movies, like songs, and also even self-help, etc. The text that is in the video also plays on the false positivity or false sense of optimism. The quirky ambient melody that was created by 𝗚𝗏𝗪, 𝗏𝗏𝗢, also consists of urban sounds that's remixed in to allude to the search of finding that special someone in the sea of love. So a souvenir, basically, it's an accumulation of my experiences from online dating. So while I was trying to navigate, the realms of contemporary relationships as well. So online dating for me began many years ago. I mean, I'll say many years ago, but it lasted for many years after a breakup, because my social circle was kind of sad. So where else better to look for, candidates or prospects, love prospects, and that was actually, I found that's how I found out about online dating platforms. So this here that I'm sharing is a screenshot of one of my online dating profile while I was in Hong Kong doing my one of the arts exchange. So during my online dating years, I will also be navigating about 2 to 4 different platforms, dating platforms at any one time. So my modus operandi was actually very simple. I never lied to these candidates or what my motives were. So these days, I'm off online dating, but I'm still very interested in other people's relationships. I mean, their stories, their love stories, their relationship stories, and also their online dating experiences. I'm not limited to the heteronormative spectrums. For me, might seem like I'm very 𝗟𝗊 or like but at the same time, I find these stories very intriguing because through other people's story, I'm also very curious to know the why and the how, and especially like how these relationships develop, the breakdowns, and also the successes. So for me, many of these stories and backgrounds contain very layered meanings as well that I'm very curious about. And why the title A Souvenir? Because a souvenir is not only about tourist trinkets, meaning the meaning of the word souvenir refers to a keepsake of sorts, which relates to a tangible memento like an object, or an intangible effect like a memory or a feeling. Because every relationship, whether good or bad, leaves behind a trace, and this trace can be either tangible, intangible, or both. So like a gift, a gesture, even trauma, photos, chat messages, or even parts of skin and hair and nails. So through the experience of playing, a souvenir and trying to win the love prize, whether one wins or not, there is still the memory or even the experience from it, and even from watching someone else playing it as well. So ultimately, the goal of a souvenir is about attaining this love prize as well.
So thanks, Liana. I think my next question for you would be, why the claw machine? How did that connection pop into mind when you're thinking about creating an artwork that responded to online dating?
So interestingly, you approached me sometime last year, right? Early middle last year. But I was actually already toying with this idea around 2020s. So I think it was around that time when COVID was starting. So I always pass by these like 𝗟𝗟𝗢 machine, because another name for the claw machine, they call it the 𝗟𝗟𝗢 machines as well, these arcade stores. And I realized there was a revival in it, in the recent years especially with young people. And especially people when they're going on dates, right? They also will bring their date along with these places to try to win the prize. So I realized that in these arcades, there were like the older, like more outdated versions and like the newer, spunkier, flashier ones as well. Truthfully, honestly speaking, I'm not a big fan of these claw machines. I never really tried one, to be honest, but I was very drawn to them because I felt like it was very similar to online dating in terms of how it works. As in, it feels like there's a no frills, easy to win, right? Just put money in and just go and claw or like try your luck at it. So it's about just like aiming for the prize and anchoring that crawl grip. But how does one actually succeed at winning the game, or the prize? So most of this claw machine also, inside the claw machine, the games or what the prize inside usually contains some sort of like quite useless item like a plushie or some cute souvenir. And I always wonder, what does one do with this prize after winning also? Because some of these plushies are huge. Like, where do you place them at home, And especially some people, they win many at one time as well. So I was very drawn to the idea of how some people would keep returning to play these claw machines. And also similar with online dating, we just don't give up. We keep coming back to these apps, even though sometimes we don't find the one. Right. So is there, this excitement also of trying to win? So for the claw machine gamer, is there also that satisfaction of others watching and having like people around them cheering them on when they try to also get a chance to win the game as well, the prize? So I mean, also a quick question, Yan, is also what have been the reactions or observations from watching SAM visitors trying to win the love prize so far at A Souvenir?
The Q&A started early and now I get a question. So I would say just based on my own observation, I would agree that there definitely is both skill and luck involved in trying to get a successful catch. I feel that in some cases more than others, perhaps a lot more luck is required. So just based on those times that I've been in the gallery and I've observed visitors, come up to the machine, I've also noticed that they are more likely to participate if they came with some company, because I guess, there is some kind of strength in and courage in numbers, in having people there to egg you on. I've also noticed what you mentioned, but when a visitor is playing, they will also interest other museum goers to stand around and watch. So there is that curiosity that is there for sure. Kind of like, in an arcade setting, there's that kind of spillover thrill, like how people would also watch game streamers play games. I would say that it's still in the early weeks of the exhibition, so we will continue to observe. But it's also been very encouraging for us to know that there are visitors who are keen on participating, because it requires a certain kind of commitment and input, right, in terms of purchasing a token, just to stand a chance, and there's no guarantee at all of winning something in the capsules that they cannot see, right? So both of us have had conversations about this, about thinking about the pricing of the tokens, about the difficulty level and probabilities during the work's conceptualization stage, and trying to find if there was a way that we could balance all of that. I would say so far, I don't know whether we have had anyone try more than twice. I'm also not sure if it's got anything to do with the fact that this machine, it's placed rather unconventionally in a museum, right?
Yeah.
So it has a status as an artwork versus an object for pure entertainment that contributes to a certain kind of maybe skepticism on the part of the audiences. But that is something that we will keep on observing.
Thanks, Yan. I guess for online dating, the assignment is also probably anchored in the potential for that hope of attaining a certain promise of happiness in the near future, when an online candidate meets another candidate which turns out to be the desired or ideal mate. So desirability is very subjective for each of us. And for desirability to succeed, it is also determined by many factors such as chemistry and commitment, etc. If anyone has ever tried online apps, we know that the success rate is usually, very hit and miss, right? So have we also ever wondered why? So do you think that the success rate depends on your luck or fate, or that you are just simply not trying hard enough? So online dating does feel like, it's trying to win the lottery sometimes, or even winning the lottery may be even easier than finding someone, that you actually truly, love, than on online dating. So yeah, winning the lottery may be even easier. So in a way, it's sort of like a gamble of sorts, which made me think of the claw machine. And even if there's a match, there's also this hurdle of understanding or trying to get to know your match, and vice versa. Or you may also feel like you just want a useless object. So however, people do return. I do see people returning back to play these claw machines, or even go back online on the online dating apps, because I think some of us also try to remain hopeful. And nonetheless, the game is really like a game of like chance, luck, and it requires certain expertise and experience, because to win the game, we need to evaluate the possibilities and also to contend with available choices. Like, like with the claw machine, you need to know where to put the grape, where to anchor the grape and position the grape and before the arm comes down. So sometimes the experience of encounter online can also be very overwhelming. Although being overwhelmed is supposed to be exciting, it's also very exhausting.
So when you first shared this idea for the work with us, about the claw machine, my mind did flip to the place of the claw machine in dating culture, and of course the appeal, to couples, and especially younger couples. Somehow that is an image that's really lodged in my mind. I think they're also a staple in a lot of dramas. So there's almost something heroic, right, in a triumphant catch. And even if say, in a couple, one doesn't win anything for the other, it's still that sentiment behind it that is admired, right? I think what is also interesting to me when we think about the claw machine in relation to dating apps is that the outcomes can be influenced. So just how dating apps will each have their own kind of algorithms and also filtering methods in order to narrow the options. I would say, and even for claw machines, it's not a closely kept secret that the probabilities can be adjusted. But of course, there are always ways to outsmart it. So maybe we circle back to the work. So visitors who would like to try their hand at winning a love prize, they are asked to purchase tokens at $5 each for 1 token per try. So can you share a bit more about the significance of this gesture to the work? Why is this kind of like signal important?
I mean, we have considered this, right? And I mean, it could have been free. We could have given it.
It could have been.
Yeah, it could be FOC free, right? But everything has a price to pay. So considering even for love and in sustaining relationships. So love or romance is never free or cheap. And capitalism thrives on romance and vice versa. So a disclaimer with this slide here that I'm showing is that I'm not trying to market or sell any online dating platforms here, but rather this is actually an interesting comparison listing out the price ranges and the pros and cons. So success and quality, are something that's very subjective even for the paid quality platforms.
I'm quite interested by what I see here on this free versus paid comparison table. So free versions give you lower quality singles, and paid versions, they promise high quality singles. So in your experience, what makes for this difference in quality? Is it something that you've managed to suss out?
It's great that you asked this. You mentioned quality also, because quality, equates to an intrinsic value and acquired worthiness also. So sure, there are we paid platforms. Sure, there are compatibility quizzes and questionnaires that you have to put some work in filling up. But quality also equates to many factors such as chemistry, communication, and each other's commitment styles as well. So again, similar interests and even sexuality and preferences. So, and this is something that the app cannot always predict very 100%, and there's also something that the app cannot predict, which is changes in our personal lifestyles, in our professional and lifestyles as well, and also in personality. And there's also something that where people lie, especially when it comes to profile photos also. So this is something like the app cannot catch. And quality and value both have this some sort of a transactional element as well. So be it emotional or romantic or financial, relationships do entail a sort of transactional quality in it. So example, like going on quality dates, you want to be wine and dine, right? Who don't want to be wine and dine? So what happens also when your dates start plying you with a lot of alcohol to get you drunk? And I mean, and also don't forget buying gifts, that requires also some sort of capital. So I mean, sorry to sound like this enchanted or jaded, but but this does not mean that I do not like these things, And however, the exploits of capitalism also at the same time, for me, took me on many interesting and also not so interesting dates. So when we talk about that $5 fee, right, or the gaming that gaming token pay for, it's also about assigning an intrinsic value to the game. So Barry Schwartz, an American psychologist who coined this very famous term called the paradox of choice, he suggests that one of the central mechanisms of maximizing mindset is the anticipation of regret and the feeling of missing out on what economists call opportunity cost. The paradox happens when the ability of more choices creates a lack of interest or enthusiasm, because there's lesser regret when one loses the object or desire and lesser anticipation or energy to pursue the desired object. So they did a very famous experiment as well with offering many different flavors of jam at the supermarket. So in this experiment, they realized that shoppers were more unlikely to not buy when they're offered more flavors of jam, rather than just being offered like 1 or 2 or 3 very simple flavors. Because more choices also affect our ability to choose, as it mothers us with many potential possibilities. So like give the example for the claw machine game. you can see people, before they make that choice to grab the ball, you can see them like bidding, like, okay, should I take the ball, the front, the back, the lower one, the higher one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've even seen visitors really maneuver all three faces of the machine, just trying to position the claw. Yeah, and I have to remind them sometimes when I'm there that they only have 30 seconds to do that.
So yeah, and also considering quality, we also need to consider what's the online candidates' ultimate goal also on these online dating platforms. So what or who are they seeking for on these online dating apps as well? So humans are complex. So essentially, what does one want in return? And happiness in relationship is subjective, and the experience is different for each one of us. So each of us normally will thrive or pursue different things in various points of our lives as well. So does one want a serious relationship, or is just fooling around when they go on these apps? Or is marriage and kids and having the whole deal, like the marriage and kids, the real deal, or a non-monogamous relationship, something they prefer? So the value of using online dating apps increases or decreases depending on the effects that one experiences. So when one desired effects are produced in tandem by both parties, the closer both are reaching their love goals or investments. However, either one or both experience more negative effects, then their return of investment or the desired value of their love goal decreases. So hence, every paid game is an opportunity cost. You may either win or you may lose. So, but before you know whether you're going to win or lose, you need to try to maneuver that claw hand thing, right? So sometimes by paying more on dating platforms, we feel like we're being offered better choices or gaining unlimited access to a greater selection of choices. But again, what is the quality of these choices, and how does the availability of the selection match up to the desires of an ideal loved one? So we always assume that abundance is wonderful to have. It's always more thrilling and exciting to have more choices, right? Even I'm guilty of this. Like, who wants to go to a candy store and they only have one flavor of candy? You want to go to a candy store and see many flavors of candy, right? All sorts of candy, right? But thanks to the paradox of choice, in reality, having too much of something also makes it difficult to ascribe value for the desired object. And by contrast, scarcity enables a very quick assessment of value. So when the love object is further from our reach, we also tend to treasure it more. So nonetheless, it's back to like what happens after winning that prize and so. How do we contend with sustaining the prize or the relationship? So this is also another attribute of quality. So sustaining a relationship or quality relationship can itself be another puzzle of its own. So with the illusion of control and choice, so likewise to pay more on the app, we may think that we got it all in the bag already. But when in reality, the chances of winning may have already been rigged. What we get to see on these online dating platforms and the selection of candidates offered to us on the app may have already been massaged by the app's algorithms, and also maybe at the same time with these claw machines too. So in reality, there may be no secret formula or technique. So even if the game or app was free, the winning still may not be easy because it is about also creating a sort of precarious anticipation. The app or online dating app or the claw machine wants you to keep coming back, to always be hopeful, or to develop an addiction. Every so often, the prices in the machine may change up, or you may get a more, you may just like entice you a little bit and give you, intrigue you so that it gets you going again. Likewise, staff working on online dating platforms also have been known to interact with app users as to keep the user interested and not to leave the app or to continue subscribing to the app. So eventually, we do get to win sometimes. So like what 𝗚𝗏𝗧 have sang in her very famous early 80s hit, I should be so lucky in love. At the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, how many tries are we going, or tries or chances are we going to keep trying to, we till it's golden?
Yeah. So on the number of chances, I remember, on seeing on the wall outside at SAM, I think you also had the image on one of those slides where there was a SAM visitor who created an avatar of themselves on one of the other artworks in the exhibition.
Yeah.
And as their name, they put, I lost $10 here at SAM. So I'm guessing that was 2 tries. And then, yeah, someone else says, me too. So we do know that we have people who have limited themselves, right? Just to 2 tries. Once again, like I mentioned, maybe it's because of the unconventional placement of this artwork in a museum setting, right? That they feel, yeah. So I'm quite amused by the French fries and chicken drumsticks that I saw in one of your images there. Yeah, and also the mix of all kinds of toys that run the spectrum from cute to kind of scary.
And Annabelle as well.
Yeah, so okay. So what I hear from you is that the need for people to purchase tokens is really symbolic of that effort and intent, right? That is likewise present when people use online dating apps. Is to signal that willingness to pay for the chance of a match or for the chance of success. Earlier, you also mentioned that a souvenir can be considered a combination of sorts of your experiences and observations from online dating. Would you be able to share a bit more about some of these and how they have informed your practice and past works, maybe up to this point?
So apart from my own online dating experience and also from collecting stories from others, I'm also usually very inspired by Western rom-com movies, TV shows and love songs as well, especially those from the 80s and 90s. So in these shows and in these songs, there's always they always present it, with this need for big romantic gestures, and there's always the emphasis of self and that quest for immaculate love. So like in this very funny film called Crazy Stupid Love, the characters played by Ryan Gosling explains to Emma Stone that his go-to move, for example, this example I'm giving that his go-to move is the Dirty Dancing lift. And if you ever watch it, this is hilarious. And that after he does it, a woman will always sleep with him. So you have to watch it to understand. So anyway, so these shows and these songs also, and stories that I used to read last night, it created a very distorted view of romance and relationships. And one other such movie that I could give an example was is Closer. So this one really like F me up really quite badly. I'm not sure if Yen, have you watched this movie before?
No, I've not.
Oh my God,
it'll be on my list.
And the soundtrack by Damien Rice doesn't make it better as well. So anyway, I compare these influences with the present state of things. So it's actually heartening to see a more realistic and more inclusive shift in contemporary cinema, TV shows, and books these days as well. So through media stories and peer sharing, I learned to experience other lives while trying to understand my own. So theatrically, through social media and even art, it is as though we constantly have to put on a show for others. So many domestic relationships these days tend to shift their declarations of intimacy onto the online platforms, as if it is supposed to be a collective experience to be shared with many, like in the cinema or TV dramas serial unfolding. So for my own personal experience, I spent close to 5 years exploring most of the online dating platforms available, floating in and out from platform to platform. So during those years, I chatted with many male candidates. Most of these conversations normally start off very mundane, like a hello or hey. Usually the men's side is like that. So if I start the conversation, I will usually add more finesse by asking a personal question based on what they shared on, if they do share on their on their profile. So that there are opportunity for conversations to sustain or to find out more about the candidate. So most of the time, these candidates do not care if I'm an artist or not. The few who usually do ask or care have a very stereotypical view of what an artist is or does. So telling them this was also telling that what I'm doing is also part of an art project, usually did not seem to bother them. And I reckon it was also because I was not requesting for very art things in a traditional sense, like say, asking to draw them or to photograph them. So in order to meet more candidates, there was actually one thing I also had to do to my profile, which was to lie about my actual age. My main aim was to have the conversation result in an actual meeting outside the online chat platform and to understand the motivations of these candidates. There were many occasions when trying to communicate with these candidates also felt like I was sifting through some sort of coded messaging. So this led to many moments of frustrations, and sometimes I would play along with them to make the experience more pleasant. These online dating experiences have inspired many of my artworks and also projects. And one of the artworks was in the comfort of strangers. So part of this project consists of online chat conversations with some of these men. And the chats were compiled into booklets, and each booklet given a moniker that best described the candidate or the conversation. So all the compiled chat always end in a sort of conclusionless or truncated state. So in the comfort of strangers also featured a collection of digitally manipulated online profile photos of some of the candidates whom I corresponded with. To me, each of them registered nothing but a sort of residue or trace, like a distant memory, some sort of faded dream, even a ghost I want to forget. Interestingly, there were also times where I also rematched with some of these men or other dating platforms, or when I rejoined the platform again. So much of the artwork is about processing the trauma, the unforgettable and also memorable experiences. So through my artwork, I'm trying to articulate or process what has happened. Sometimes it can be erotic, aggressive, suggestive, even in a singular or collectively as well. So with some sort of structural sanity, that may seem lighthearted or palatable, for audiences, when most of the time the actual experience may not be. So often I ask if I was trying to come to terms with the love object who has left or whom I'm trying to reject, yet at the same time still wanting the feeling of them being around too. So I won't deny that it was challenging and sometimes traumatic trying to navigate online dating. I often wonder whether love requires a lot of patience for all its conflicting claims and aims. So true love definitely takes patience and effort to work out what forms of satisfaction it will take to hold on to the love object. And not just for myself, but also for the love object to hold on to me too. So many times online dating, there are misalignments that also create awkwardness and misery. But I'll just try to tell myself to proceed with a sort of optimistic ignorance. So earlier I also mentioned that these days a lot of relationship status or relationships per se requires a performative gesture on social media in order to validate its existence and couples love. So how would some say, if it ain't real until it's on the gram or TikTok now? And even now we even have metaverse marriages. So the birth of online dating and social apps such as TikTok, Instagram, Facebook have greatly radicalized the idea of love through the necessity for public integration. So this also enables a sort of confusion for both the public and private domains. So I find this ambiguity, not knowing what is real or for social media, intriguing and also darkly funny. How some couples on social media look like they are in a perfect and enviable relationship when in reality their situation may be another story. So sometimes I will also utilize this confusion of the public and social realms in my artwork and also in my own Instagram account.
Thanks so much for sharing so candidly your experiences. I do really register what you say about the big romantic gesture that we see in a lot of movies, the whole performativity, the whole idea of performativity, also because I see it unfolding say in my own circles, especially so now in the age of smartphones and Instagram and TikTok, like you mentioned. I mean, pictures or it didn't happen, right? It's pretty much that. So yeah, so on the topic of pictures, your practice began as very much a lens-based one, right? You started working in photography, and in fact that was how I first came to know of your works, and it was through this series, the Innocence Project, and also What My Pussy Loves, which is this series, very sweet, of your cat. So I'm quite curious, when and what first sparked that transition into moving image and installation as well for you?
Okay, I mean, initially I started with mundane street photography and documentary photography like some 15 years ago, but I got bored with the traditional sense of photography. So I was always looking out to push and like how I can push boundaries. So I started reading up a lot on photography theories and also study art history on my own. So although photo-based works are 2D, I tend to treat photography or photographic works or my photographic works as a sort of performative or installation art. So treating the photo medium as a sculptural and performative medium. So always keeping, I'm always also keeping the exhibition site in mind, and I think understanding the exhibition space is also very important. So in the photos that I'm showing here, it contains the work Year Zero. So in brief, this work is actually about third-party relationships or an adulterous affair. So part of the exhibition installation consists of photo light boxes that were backlit with different colors to represent the different color spectrums that reflected, like traffic and even street lamps at night. And it also consists on text-based prints, as well as installation piece of sea salt and an engagement ring. I'm also always thinking about how to use photography more creatively and also injecting more into the narrative through other mediums and materials. So how can I, I'm always asking, how can I convey a more engaging or experiential experience for the art viewer? So these days, I also incorporate a lot of video, sound, found objects, even scent and lighting as well. I'm also very fond of using found images and videos from the internet or printed materials, such as like old romance novels for this work, Forever's a Long Time. So often twisting its original content or subverting its original or origin narrative or context. So I think I probably started getting a bit more adventurous when I also was given more space and more budget. So like the case for this work, besides printing on cloth, I wanted that textural, how to say, a sort of very airy, breezy feeling, because it's based on this dystopic sense of romance. So by printing it on cloth, I was trying to also bring out that dreamy fairy tale that is actually underlined by the actual subversiveness of the work. So to enhance that false utopia, I also scented the room with cheap rose fragrance, and also placed standing fans as part of the installation to create this fake breeziness in the space. Another thing that I'm also very inspired by these days is also by the historical or local context of the space and or by the exhibition team to develop the existing work. So one such work entitled Dear FWB, FWB meaning Friends with Benefit. I won't go too much into what that means. You can go Google that.
Google that.
Yes, which was staged inside an actual HDB flat bedroom at Holland Drive. So this was a time-based artwork. There was also a presentation of how relationships starting out fresh and hopeful can disintegrate and break down despite trying to maintain it. So the artwork also looked at like someone was mourning unrequited love, and using what was existing in the bedroom, I placed fresh chrysanthemums and other flora all around the room. And at the corner, there was a scrolling LED text work that reads like 2 time-based text messages. So more fresh flowers were topped up weekly, while still leaving the dead ones behind. So by the end of the exhibition period, the whole space was filled with dead and half dying flowers, and also with the scent of it. So I guess this is how, like, from photographic works, I'm also like moving away or shifting away sometimes also from that to these sort of more, site-specific works or more installation-based work as well.
Yeah. And how long was this installation, this exhibition on for?
This for their FWB?
Yeah.
It was on for 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. So every weekend.
Just trying to imagine the state of the flowers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose installation and that ability to create relationships between the objects, right? Relations to one another, then allows you to create atmospheres and also experiences for audiences versus just relying on static images. So through all these works, I also see that love as a general theme and approach has also occurred in, I would say, other exhibitions and other projects in which you have been very key in organizing. Some of those that come to mind are just the recent one earlier this year, Waiting for Your Text Back, and Stay Home Sessions, which was a series of online online discussions around love and labor within the context of artistic practice. I'm interested to hear, how do you view these in relation to your own works and your own practice?
I would say they are both in relation and not in relation. So early on in my practice, I have always been very attracted to the dualistic nature of things and behaviors. So how like two polar things or effects can be very much linked and connected despite being dissimilar. I'm very curious and intrigued by how these polar effects are formative in developing the human condition. And at the same time, I'm also curious to understand why this is so. So for these other initiatives, like stay home sessions and waiting for a text back, as well as some more recent artworks, I've also been trying to ask if there are also better ways to flourish more lovingly. So these two outside initiatives, stay home and waiting, were born also, interestingly, during the intense parts of COVID. So they were actually about gathering other art practitioners in the industry, be it other artists, other curators, and even writers, etc. And try to talk about relationships and collaboration in sort of the art industry or art practice sense. So they were kind of targeted towards or anchored towards frank and open and even lighthearted discussions as well. So we were trying to discover new things about each other through this initiatives, and also the reality of things from the ground, So I was always constantly asking, like, how can we flourish and sustain also as an arts community? So and also, especially with waiting for a text back, it was also a project that was meant to be cathartic, where us artists can get to do something different from our usual practice. So I'm very much interested in the unseen labors in love and also much of art making. Whether there are also and other creative ways we can do things, perhaps. But it may also, saying all this, it may also seem like it's very one-sided, or it may even sound very exploitative or cliche, because collaboration can be also a very dirty word. But yeah, so this is something that we were also trying to unpack as well. So personally, for me, this questions also got me thinking about labor in the attainment of pleasure and also the pursuit of happiness. So which also led me to this work that I did for Singapore Art Week 2021. So I created this work called Smile Till the Tears Run Into Your Eyes, which consists of found online video footage that was edited and distorted, and also still life photos, and also mixed media sculptural installation. So the artwork actually looks at these popular but clandestine Singapore entertainment night spots and wellness centers, such as this, 𝗟𝗏𝗧 or hang flower joints, KTVs, and Thai discos or xiang-dius. You often see these places featured very often in the news. So it's actually an ongoing project that's trying to look at the dualities of pleasure fulfillment and the unseen and unspoken labors that goes behind fulfilling one's pleasures. So it also questions the structures of pleasure fulfillment vis-a-vis the transactional features that facilitate the various modes of desire fulfillment, such as what does the desired outcome of happiness means to the other, trying to fulfill it too. So Smile Till the Tears Run Into Your Eyes is also about in the pursuit of a so-called good life. The project tries to open up the possibilities for critical exchange about the relationship between power and sex, as well as the parties of the people that are wrapped up as mutually benefiting. Likewise, it tries to interrogate the distortion of pleasures and perceived happiness that are intertwined in patriarchal structures. So a very quick disclaimer is that the entire project does not aim to advocate clandestine work, neither harbor any sort of intentions to promote illicit type of solidification as pleasure-seeking modes. So rather, he's trying to ask what one is willing to do, give, and take from each other, and who objectively benefits from these exchanges. So through this perspective, the project aims also to raise possible discussions that may also come out through this questioning. So coming back to the present, I also do intend to do part 2 of waiting for a text back, if let's say I can get the appropriate funding as well.
Then I guess you'll have to wait for their text back.
Yeah.
I just had a peek at the time and it's 8:50. So since we don't yet have any questions from the attendees, I guess I'll just continue with some that I prepared. Maybe we'll just do two before we wrap up the session.
Sure.
So Liana, the first question would be, how do you feel that the proliferation of dating apps may have changed the ways in which people view love and relationships?
So, I mean, dating apps are still popular, but at the same time, there is also that illusion of choice. It gives people that illusion of choice and control. But at the same time, with that, people face, or the users also face a lot of exhaustion and develop a fundamental a lack of effort when one encounters the loved one. So remember how earlier I was saying, like, when you have more choice, you also put in less effort. You tend not to treasure something as much. So when one embarks newly on an online dating app, it's like the excitement of there's this excitement of trying to match, because you see, oh, so many candidates, you start to like, left, right, and you try to match with an ideal mate, or like in the claw machine, you try to want to win that prize. So to win the game, there are many propositions and also choices to contend with. And that said, it depends again on chance, luck, and expertise even, or experience. So sometimes the experience encountered online can also be very overwhelming and underwhelming. Being overwhelmed is supposed to be exciting, but it's also exhausting for the one who cares, because the other one, because there may be an imbalance of how to say, interest. So when the underwhelm makes the whole experience very boring for the overwhelmed. So with more choices, some folks also do not bother to make genuine connections or take the relationship seriously. So there's also an irresponsibility or general lack of care, because with so many choices, some will even say, why bother, right? Because there's always a better one. Or maybe I shouldn't even bother because I think I can get a better one, or find a better one.
Right. So we do have a comment from one of our attendees. Liana, I don't think you can see the Q&A box. Can you?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Anyway, I will read it out. So this attendee says, thank you for the talk. And just to share that they've also tried the claw machine once, but unfortunately did not manage to claw a prize, although it was really good fun. So she has never played arcade games before, and also realized through that experience that she didn't have the requisite knowledge of how to operate the machine. She also says she's married and never used dating apps before, but after this encounter with your work, then started to question the luck that was involved in her choosing her partner. So so after all, she had not been married before and had no experience in that either. And she hopes that she's luckier with this next try. I hope you are too. Tokens can be purchased at $5 each.
Support Sam.
Yeah. So okay, so maybe I can wrap up with this last question. Also back to the claw machine. So unlike these typical claw games, right, the prizes in a souvenir are kept concealed within these kind of black capsules rather than being exposed. So what would be your response to members of the public who are wondering what exactly is inside each capsule?
If you pay attention, I kind of given some clues in my slides or in my presentation, or in what I was saying. So y'all can, this is recorded, right? You can play back on the YouTube and try to see where it is. If I were to share with you what it is, then it'll be no fun anymore, right?
That is true. That is true.
Yeah. So the whole point is to try and play. Yeah. Try to win the love prize. Yes.
Which is still, yeah. I mean, I do believe we've had a couple of visitors who have walked away with a capsule. Well, it's not the ultimate love prize, so an encouragement for people to keep on trying.
A hint is that even though you win, even if you do win the love prize, it's not the end of it.
Yeah. So that is
there's another stage. There's another stage to it as well. Yeah.
So final words from the artist.
I think there's one comment in the Q&A from
Yes.
Leader Khan.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for your comments. It's been a really fun date with Sam, date with Liana.
Wait, there's this person here who said, I enjoy this talk very much. It brings up new perspectives to the online dating and how teens now rely more on these apps to obtain true love. Yes, it's true, especially with the millennials and the younger people. I think they're born with the generation that are born with the screens, right?
Yeah. So it's the amount of time that we just spend on our screens indoors. It's almost impossible now to get anyone to do anything that doesn't involve their phones, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's really a matter of the environment that we find ourselves in today.
Yeah. And you get a different how to say, when on the chat app and in meeting a person in real life, they can't negotiate that. Because they can't deal with meeting someone, or they can't face meeting, or they can't communicate when seeing someone.
Yeah.
Wait,
I mean, I've also read a couple of articles about the pandemic, and lockdowns also being particularly a boom time for dating apps, because people just generally, they go out less, they
but harder as well, a lot harder as well.
So it is I guess them not navigating the getting to know people, outside, like in person, presents own kinds of challenges in the online space.
Yeah. I mean, I can go on now, but I'm gonna I know you gotta do more OT.
So yeah, thank you again everybody for being with us this evening. Thank you so much, Liana. I guess that's all the time that we have for tonight. So maybe I'll pass the time back to you, Hazira.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Liana and 𝗚𝗏, for the insightful conversation about love and relationships with the context of online dating cultures. It was interesting to see how Liana's interests have informed her practice and work, in particular a souvenir, which I've seen at the exhibition. A Date with Sam is a program held in conjunction with Can Everybody See My Screen? Do catch the exhibition, which ran until 11 December at Sam at Tanjong Pagar District Park. Thank you everyone for attending this evening with us, and hope everyone had a wonderful time.